So if you're feeling up to it, grab a leaf that looks like this, or you can just pass them out. Yeah, those folks in the front can just pass them out to everybody. Thanks. Why don't you all just smush down just a little bit and pass out these leaves to everybody. Yeah, keep passing out. Pick all you want. Okay. Yeah, okay. Let's go. So just look at a leaf like this. The people keep passing if you would. Thank you. All right, so everybody should have a leaf that looks like this. Okay, and why don't several of you scrunch up the leaves you have and tell me what it smells like.
Smells leafy.
Right, well you know what it is. It's supposed to smell like garlic.
Oh.
Does it smell like garlic? Okay. This plant is not garlic, it's just a botanical coincidence. The actual name for this plant is garlic mustard. So it's in the mustard family, so it's related to cabbage, kale, collards, kohlrabi, Brussels sprouts, and so on. This plant is at or near the top of the ecological blacklist. The ecologists really hate it. Because what it does is that it will grow as an understory plant in the woods and take the habitat away from the spring ephemeral wildflowers, the trilliums and the bloodroots and stuff like that. So it's very ecologically disruptive. It was brought here to the United States for its culinary purposes, and this is a great example of why. Because this plant is an annual, but it has a skewed growing season. It germinates the previous year, winters over in leaves like this, and then in the spring, it's already got a head start in all the plants that haven't germinated from seed yet. So it blooms very early and goes to seed very quickly. And so that gives it an advantage over a lot of native species. So, but that is also an advantage for people that until, let's say, after World War II, being able to have green leafy vegetables available all the time was somewhat unusual for a lot of people. And they're living off things like the root cellar or stuff they had canned and put up over the winter. And garlic mustard was a leafy green vegetable that they could start eating right away, because as soon as the snow melted, there it was. So this plant's edible at any young stage, but I find the flavor quite pungent. It's not very good raw. It's a little bit too strong. So if you boil it for a few minutes and pour off the water, then you'll find it more palatable, and it tastes like garlic flavored broccoli. So next spring, this plant is going to produce stems which are about 1.5 feet tall, and then these little florets of green flower buds that look like little miniature broccoli florets. And it's one of the wild broccolis, and you can cook them up and eat them, and it'll taste like garlic flavored broccoli. Okay? And but after the plants begin to bloom, they start to get too bitter and too tough to enjoy. So this stage is fine, and up until the broccoli floret stage, I actually have found that the stems of garlic mustards, when they're about 9 inches tall, can be edible raw. They can be yummy just plain without cooking. You just chop them up and eat them, add them to salads and stuff. But mostly this is a plant that you need to cook. Now sometimes when I mention cooking something and pouring off the water, somebody will say, oh, well there go all the vitamins, but that's not true. It is true that you will lose some of the water-soluble vitamin content, like vitamin C, which is water-soluble, when you boil something and pour off the water. But other vitamins like vitamin A that aren't water-soluble will stay largely retained in the plant tissues. And furthermore, plants like garlic mustard are so astronomically high in vitamins that even if you lose some in the cooking process, you're just knocking them down to the level of conventional vegetables. They're still really good for you. Okay? Let me tell you one final story about this plant. As I mentioned, this is an invasive species, and so there are attempts to control it in certain areas, especially when you have, the spring ephemeral wildflower habitat that you're trying to protect. So there's a nature center in Michigan called the Kalamazoo Nature Center that has a garlic mustard problem, and they recruit volunteers to hand pull it, which is the best way to control it. And they wanted to raise the profile of the plant a little bit to get people more excited about coming out and volunteering for these garlic mustard posts. And so somebody on the staff of the Nature Center had the presence of mind to contact all the chefs in Kalamazoo and said, come up with some good ways for using this plant. And they did. And they put out a cookbook. And the cookbook is called From Pest to Pesto. And it's just filled with garlic mustard recipes. And it costs $5. You can get it from the Nature Center.